Hi and welcome to Kalamazoo College. My name is Chris Ludwa. I'm the assistant professor of music here in vocal and choral music. And like many of you, or all of you, I was thrust this last spring into a world of technology and virtual singing that I had no training for and probably no interest in until it meant the difference between singing or not singing. So I thought I would do what I could to demystify some of the things around choral singing and hopefully offer something to our field that is helpful and makes it easy. Thanks. Okay, the first thing you want to do in making a virtual choir song is decide what song you want to sing, and I'll leave that part up to you. I have a lot of thoughts on what kind of pieces work really well for this, other pieces which are more challenging, but all of them depend, of course, on your singers and how competent they are at singing their part, independence, and all that kind of stuff. So I'll leave that up to you. Once you've decided what song to sing and to record, my experience is the first thing you want to do is to play the accompaniment and get that down. I recommend doing it with a count in. You can do it on a phone device with an acoustic instrument, an actual piano if you like. Or you can also do it with a keyboard and having that go directly into the MacBook in my case. The way that I do that is through a MIDI cable. If you're not familiar with MIDI cable, it goes to the back of the keyboard, back here, runs over here. If you've got one of the newer Macs, then you probably have to buy a little adapter like this, plug that in, and then you plug the MIDI cable into there, and then that goes into the Mac itself. So what you're going to want to do now is open Logic Pro, either here in your menu or by going over to Finder, Applications, double-click Logic Pro. It may auto-load for you. If it doesn't, don't worry, just go up to File, New from Template, and it's going to ask you Empty Project or something else. Empty Project works well. Okay, then what you're going to want to use, if you're recording directly from your keyboard, an electronic keyboard, into your computer, which cuts down on background noise and all that kind of stuff, then you're going to double-click Software Instrument. If you are recording live from a piano and you're doing it on your computer versus on your phone, you would click Audio. Okay, so I'm doing Software Instrument, so I'll double-click here. Okay, you can actually close this thing out. And then you come over here to the left and find the instrument that you like. So in Logic, there's a really wonderful piano. It's a sampled grand piano, a Steinway. I generally use that. So once you've got that up here in your track, you're ready to go. Once you've got that, there you got signal. And you can turn that down a little bit if you'd like. Still pretty hot. You could also come over here, I believe, to the Steinway piano, bring that down, enter your stereo out. Bring those down. That's a little better level. You want to go up here to your tempo and set the tempo for whatever it is. If you're 120 is good. If you want to do something else, just double click on 120. I find it really helpful to go over here and double click on time signature. And I even find it helpful to go in here and double click on the key signature. If you're going to do auto tuning later or something like that, it can be helpful in terms of that too. So then what you would do is hit record, and you hear it count off like that, right? So right now it's already recording. So let's listen to that again. So to get back to the first measure here, you just click on this, just like an old tape deck. Okay, it's going to count off 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you would start playing. Okay, go. Bump, bump, dum, dum, deep, dum. So you would start to play right there, and that would be what you where your piano would begin. Okay, and that's basically how you record your first track, the guide track with the accompaniment, or if it's an a cappella piece, all 4 voice parts at the same time can be helpful for people to hear the context of this work that you're recording. Once you've got that done, like any good computer program, go up here to File, Save As, save your project. So I'm going to call this Unclouded Day. Make sure that it's saved as a folder, not a package. And then you shouldn't need to worry about these. Come on down here, hit save, and you should be good to go. The next thing I would do is to suggest that you either snap or clap. This will provide you a chance to line up the tracks later on. Other schools of thought may be that you do this first before you've already laid down these tracks, but I like to lay down the track first, just to, again, to have the music in front of me and in my ears. Can literally click and drag any tracks that you've made already over here out of the way, okay? Now remember, we did, in this case, we chose to use a count off, okay? So you're gonna have that on. I chose to use a metronome in this case. Again, both of those are optional. You can turn them on or off. For right now, let's leave them on. And then what you wanna do is set up a new file here, basically. So I'm gonna go to File, Track, New Audio Track, because we're using now the onboard audio on the computer, okay? You also may be able to drag it up here so it's right under there. As always, I recommend you control click and rename that track. So might be clap reference point. Might be a logical sound for this, okay? You can hit record. Three, four, and then your music starts, okay? So what you have now, if you look right here, you see that beautiful sort of lined up point, and everybody's recording will have that on it, consequently, and will be much easier to say, oh, okay, this is where this recording starts. Okay, so if you can do some kind of a black background, I don't have one here, that's okay. But it does make for a more interesting background, especially if you are going to record yourself and do one of those Brady Bunch video things that everybody likes to do. So black background or a solid background is nice, but may not be all that necessary, okay? Fix your hair, all that kind of stuff. Tell everybody in your house that there's free ice cream down the road or something. Get them all out of the house best you can, so you have complete silence and no interruptions. Then what you're gonna wanna do is you're going to want to have your computer ready to go, okay? You're going to plug in your headphones to the computer. Put your earbuds in your ear, okay? Then get your phone set up in a way so you're in the screen and everything's good, okay? You don't want to chop off your head. This is a nice distance. You can go farther back and have, more freedom that way. And then go ahead and hit record. Hit your play button on Logic or just on the MP3 file, whichever. You can stay in Logic to do this, that's fine. Assuming the vocal comes in right at the beginning, what I would do is give the pitches on the piano prior to hitting go. So if they're coming in right away, spell out your chord like you usually do, then hit play, and then 1, 2, click, click, go, and then you cue them in to sing, okay? If they don't sing right at the beginning, it's really not that big of a deal because you've already recorded your accompaniment, so it's not a problem. When you get to a place where you like what you've done, then just save it and send that back to yourself from your phone to your computer. Now, because this is a video file, it may be quite a bit larger, and you may want to do it as a Google Drive, WeTransfer, Dropbox, whatever means you like to use. I think it's really important for a sense of authenticity to find where the camera is on your phone and really hone in on that part of the phone, because I think it feels like you're actually looking at the singers then, versus if I'm like, you never really look like you're actually looking at the singers, you're just looking near the singers. So hopefully that helps you to record the conductor guide track. Okay, let's say, like many of us, you're an adequate pianist but not a great pianist, and you feel like you could be more successful playing the parts individually. So maybe you start with the bass part. So what I would do is get everything set up like this, get over to your cursors over here at measure 1, have it count off 2, 3, 4. Let's say you want to add a right hand part. What you would want to do is go up here to File, let's see, Track. You're going to create a new track. Now this is also, if you're using your keyboard and you're going right into the computer, you're going to double click on Software Instrument. Okay. And it's setting you up with a different sound. So sometimes that can be helpful. Let's say you're recording 4 voice parts. Really helpful to put different sounds for each voice part so they're listening to that timbre if you're just recording the part on piano. If you want them all to be the same, as in a piano accompaniment, then you would go back to Piano, Steinway Grand, double click, okay, and then get everything back to the beginning, count it off, okay, make sure this is at a level similar to the other one, okay, it'll count off for you, and then play your second part. And then hit stop. You want to hear what that sounds like? Go back to it, hit play. You can click on both of these tracks and adjust their volume accordingly. Hit it again. You can also do a shortcut by doing Command with a little squiggle thing and a D, and you can create as many tracks as you want. That will be helpful, and we'll use that same pattern later. Now, if you want to get rid of tracks, just highlight the track, delete it. Delete, 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 until all your tracks are done. Now, once you've got your piano part recorded, then you're good to move to the next step. So again, like all computer things, go up to File, hit Save. I believe Logic does not auto-save, so you really want to make sure you're saving your work frequently. All right, so the next thing you're going to do is go to your applications, and we're going to open iMovie, or whatever video editing software you use. I, again, choose iMovie because I'm a Mac user. Double click on that, get your iMovie to open. Okay, you can read all that some other time. Double click on movie. Sometimes it takes, there you go. And then what you want to do is you want to import your media. It's just like anything else, you're dragging and dropping. So you're going to go to File, Import Media, double click, and then this is your hard drive. So you'd find the video you want to put in here. Okay. Once you've got that in there, you want to hit Import Media again, and then you want to find on your computer your audio, and then they'll be right here at that point, so you can easily access them. Once they're there, then this little box down here is where you're actually going to put them. Okay, so Lean on Me is one we did. A friend of mine, Jerome Collins. So Jerome sent me the video, and I dragged the video down to here, click and drag. Then he sent me the audio, and I clicked and dragged the audio down here. So that's essentially what you're going to do for your conductor guide track. You grab one thing, bring it down, grab the other one. Once you get it down there, you can move it back and forth to get it lined up. You can always hit Command-Z if you need to go back. Let's see, you did something, you feel like you screwed it up, it was better before, just hit Command-Z. It'll go away or go back to what it was. And then you just want to check it and make sure that it's lined up. So right now his vocal is lining up with his audio, or his video. And then I like to go a couple other places in the track and just double check that the conductor video is lining up, in your case, with the audio that you recorded. Because nothing would be more confusing for your singers than to have your audio doing one thing and the conductor doing a totally different thing, or to be off sync with each other. That could be really weird and atrocious. So hopefully that helps you get your conductor guide track. Then when you've got that, now you're ready to send that out to singers and get them to start recording. So you go to File, Share. I like to share it as a file first. Now you can go right to email, iTunes, blah, blah, blah. I think file works well because then you've got it on your hard drive saved and you can then email it later. So it'll take a minute to kind of do its little rainbow circle thing. And then it will ask you to name it. You can name it whatever, Lean on Me, Conductor Track, whatever it might be. Okay, if you want to do a description, you can. I don't. Resolution, this can be worth looking at. If you want a smaller file, it's going to be easier for people to see and not have near as much bandwidth. You know, you may want to try 720. That's usually pretty good. Your quality, high is probably fine. And compression, up to you. I usually leave it as faster. And then you hit next. And it's just going to double check where you want it. It can either go in your documents or you can put it in your desktop. Hit save. Boom. Now it's not saved yet. It will actually tell you on a Mac that it has been saved when it's actually been saved. At that point, you can take your conductor guide track, make sure that it's clear, that have somebody that's a singer check it out for you and make sure that it makes sense, and then send it out to your singers and have them record. Now, one thing you may want to consider in iMovie that is worthwhile, I think, especially if you have singers that haven't done this before, is to go to your titles and create a title. I like to drag it down here like this and then say, Lean on Me. And you might do all of your files this way, conductor track. Okay. And then it'll save that way. You would want to do this before you save, okay? Up here in your corner, it's telling you how long until it saves that file. It'll take a while. It's a big file. Other things you may want to do for your conductor guide track is you may want to give people instructions. So you could say, all right, I'm going to drag this down here in between that and that. And I'm going to make my file size or my font size smaller. Maybe not quite that small. I'm going to say, and when you're done singing, then send the file to conductor. Done. So that now, when somebody's using this guide track, they'll see this is the title. They'll see this, and you can, if you want, you can stretch that out, make it really long so they can read it. And then the video starts. So that's how you make your conductor guide track. So I'm going to hit close library and get out of that. You've got your conductor guide track. Your singers are hopefully recording their parts and they're sending them in. I do want to do a little bit of an addendum here, which might be helpful to certain groups and certain singers. So I'm going to go back into Logic here. Okay. What you may want to do with your singers is, before they're ready to record with a guide track, you may want to send them the piano accompaniment track. You may also want to send them a piano accompaniment track and just their voice part. So we would do a new audio track here. You see that it's creating a level using the internal mic. I would rename that Soprano 1. Okay. This is going to be your Soprano 1 track. So there are two ways you could do this. One would be to use a piano, the same one you used, and you could play their part. I think it's a lot easier if you have the luxury of having either section leaders, or you yourself can record all parts, or you have really talented students that can record the parts. It's always easier to sing with another singer, and it replicates the experience of being in a room together, which so many of us are missing. So I think the nuance of the voice, find your best singer, maybe your best two singers, record their parts first in the same way, drop those in here. Okay, and then what you would do is, let's say your soprano, you put her part right there, just like you did with the piano part. She would record it, send it to you. Now, let's say she recorded it at home. You could go to File, assuming you've gotten the email now from the singer. You'd pull up the email, you'd hit download. Once you get into Logic, you go to File, File, Import that audio file. Then you're going to go back into your computer and find wherever you downloaded that file, okay? Probably in Downloads, good chance of that, okay? And then, let's say it's this one. You're going to hit that, and now your file is going to come up over here, okay? So your file is in here in Logic now. That's your soprano part. Again, you can line things up. If you want to chop that file, there's a lot of the intro. You can hit, I think it's Control B, and then you can split that track like this. And once you've split a track, then you can add another track, Control D or Command D. You could rename that track alto, and you can Control D, rename that track tenor. Control D or Command, I keep saying Control, it's Command D, sorry. Control click to rename bass. Now you may also find that it's easier just because once you start uploading other people's files, you may want to name it something a bit more specific, like bass lead. And then all of your other bass singer files would go under there, all your tenor files would go under there, alto, soprano, and so on, okay? Then you could actually, once you've got those parts recorded, you could send the accompaniment, and you could mute, by hitting this M, all these other parts. So your sopranos are only going to hear their part here. Or if you really like them to hear the way it blends with the alto, you could unmute the alto. If you wanted them to just hear their part and nothing else, you could hit the S for solo, and it will just play that one track. If you wanted to play the soprano track and the alto track, you'd hit both those solos. So you can select as many of these solo ones as you want, or as many of these mutes if you want them. You can also hit this button here and get them to all come out or all go away. So that's kind of how you would send people tracks that might be more helpful for them to rehearse with. And essentially now you've gotten into the bones of the process of how to record each individual part, which is pretty simple now. So you've sent this out to everybody. They've all recorded their parts. They're sending it back to you as either video or audio files. And every time you get one, you just download it to your computer, come back to Logic, File, Import, Audio file if it's audio, okay? Import the audio like this. You find it. Whoops, I put it in the wrong track. Look at this, I can slide it down here. Okay? And then you would do the same. And let's say this is actually the alto. It's not the alto part. Maybe it's somebody that sings soprano 1, but it's not the lead. So you could rename this part. Control click soprano 1 Barnum. Okay, and then now you know that that's Barnum's track. That can be really helpful if you know the person's voice really well in your choir, and whoever it is has some idiosyncrasies in their voice. Really helpful to know which track is which. So I recommend naming them by their voice part and their name. Okay, and then you would just put all the other tracks in here with that, and then once you've got them, a couple other small things to show you, and then we'll turn you loose. This is a really helpful tool here. You can expand the way that these sound bites, or these packages, tracks, whatever you want to call them, look this way. So you're seeing the height of the sound waves. You can also expand the view this way. This can get really helpful if you have some need to cut something. Let's say that this person coughs right here in their track. What you could do is line up your cursor, go up here, line your cursor up there, really figure out where there's no sound happening right there, and then you can take that track and you can split it. And by splitting it, then you're creating an ability to edit that track, right? So like here we go, split regions at playhead. Now that's two different packets of information in that track. And so what you can do with that information is, oh, well, she coughs here, but she's great over here. You could actually leave this part out, delete it, and this person can cover it. Now, if this person's really good, the other thing you can do is to split it here, go to Edit, Split, split it right there, Edit, Split, at Playhead. You could copy this part, and then you can go up here to this track, and you could paste it there. Got the same part, and so on. So these are some of the things you can also figure out from YouTube. A lot of the nuanced things, but I think being able to look at the screen this way and this way is really helpful. When you finish all that and you get it all lined up so it sounds nice, then I'd go to YouTube and get all kinds of tips about EQing and all that kind of stuff. But again, keep going back to save, keep saving your file, and when you are finished, you can export it as a audio file, MIDI file, just a single track, the one that's highlighted. You can also do bounce. You can bounce the entire project. That's kind of like sending it off, sharing it, if you will. And you can share it, either by iTunes, Media Browser, SoundCloud, Mail, whatever it works. Okay? So hopefully this gives you some idea of the basic structure of how to do a virtual choir. And then like the rest of us, you just kind of experiment your way through it until you figure it out. And good luck. I hope all goes well for you.